Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll better get started. So in this section of the workshop, we'd like to just review briefly some of the ideas that have come out from the past breakout session 1s and 2 essentially combined. And to do that, I'm going to just ask the moderators to give a brief summary of what went on in their groups and what potential things that we might do moving forward. And after coffee, then we can break into groups again to discuss some of those ideas in a bit more detail. So I'll make myself go first for the discussion that was in this room. We had quite a nice discussion. Lasted the full period, broad-ranging, but I think it started to focus on a couple of things, and I've kind of summarized those things in brief form on this flip chart. So there was some discussion about material recovery, whether it's metals or whatnot. We didn't really get into details on the specifics, but there's obviously a need for processes, market development, identification of markets, analysis of economic opportunities, value chain analysis, those sorts of things, all focused around the idea of material recovery. And I think that cuts across a number of discussions among all the groups so far today. I didn't properly complete my homework, and I was supposed to identify somebody that would be willing to lead discussions on material recovery in the next breakout session. Anyone want to volunteer that sort of discussion? Don't be shy. It pays twice as much as you're getting from me today already. Yeah, Frank? Okay, thank you. So, I didn't leave enough space, so Frank Z. That's Z for you, Marco.
Thank you.
The other part of our discussion was, again, fairly broad-ranging and touched on a number of different things, all around the idea of data. How do you collect data? How do you use data? How do you use it for decision-making in various contexts for various technologies? And I think what we've come to the conclusion is that it kind of is describing what you might describe as a center or I don't know, some other word for it, an institute if you like. And in Canada, some of the funding mechanisms for centers are NCE, which is National Centers of Excellence, or strategic network grants, and there may be other funding mechanisms and opportunities. But I think this again covers quite a bit of ground in various technologies, various things. Kind of includes life cycle analysis and various other types of analysis, whether economic or technical or social, environmental impact, those sorts of things. And the idea in the center is to not only collect data, which it can disseminate in various forms to interested parties, but act as a bit of a clearinghouse, if you like, an analysis center for perhaps municipalities that don't have the financial resources to hire big consulting companies to do analysis. Perhaps they can participate in a center and get some of their decision support material through that sort of avenue. And so I think it would be useful to have a bit more discussion on the idea of a center or institute or whatever we want to call it, who might be involved, what form might it take, what stakeholders might be involved. And I'll volunteer myself for this since I forgot to ask. But so in the next session, we will identify places for two groups to go and have these discussions after we, first of all, hear from the other breakout sessions and what they discussed. So at that point, unless there's any questions on any of that so far, so maybe I'll turn it over to Chow Tan to give a bit of a overview on what they discussed.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, we had a great discussion on the list. You have 12 items, but we started with the data collection, which is the number 9 on the list. Most of the people in the group agreed on that this is one of the important items to discuss. So data collection, I'm sure you already know what it is about. It is very important for policy making, and also industry in the waste management is interested in supporting this kind of research work. And the end users pretty much government agencies. And there are actually some projects going on within Canada, but at a very small scale. So it is needed to have a larger scale Canada-wide research on this project. Okay, and it was one of the popular item we discussed, but at the end we couldn't find anybody to lead the discussion for the next breakout. So it's good to we have somebody there. Okay. So the next is about the collection network optimization. I'm sure you know what it is all about. Basically, there is a need as identified by the association, the Plastic Association. And also our US friend said there is a US project going on its way, but we had some discussion about the difference. And we do need some case studies in this area. And that's pretty much all that we were talking about. And Krista will lead this discussion for the next breakout. And she will give a talk, so you will know her right away. Okay, there's no need to let her stand out now. The next one decided to talk about is plastics or the other valuable products, or the biodegradable products like plastics. And some metals from the ash, all those things. That didn't mention here. Oh, okay. Valuable products from for example, existing technology converts some biomass into methane or carbon dioxide or those products. They could be converted into some more valuable products like ethanol, methanol, plastics, or even bio-oil or syngas for other applications. So in general, we can call it a biorefinery process or biochemical process. So the end user would be most likely the consumer products company. Professor Charles Xu from Western will lead the discussion. In case you don't know him, is Charles Xu from there? Okay, so you can go with him for the next breakout. The fourth one, we talked about the sustainable recovery of metals, nutrients, and other products from bio-waste, nutrients from biosolids. For example, metals or valuable metals, even gold from ash. And also there is opportunity to research about the challenges for recovery, because very low concentration there. And we briefly mentioned some possibility about the construction materials, how do you take advantage of those waste, and also use ash as a concrete additives or something like that. There is some research already done for coal-fired ash, if I remember correctly, but maybe not for this bio-waste related ash. Okay, Professor Patrick Hetirachi from University of Calgary will lead this discussion during the next breakout. Patrick is over there. Okay. We had a brief discussion on the emerging contamination, but we decided to drop this out for the next breakout. And the last one, we were more interested in the energy from waste, Economy-wise, some research on predicting the future prices of all the valuable chemicals, all those things. If I get it correctly, can anybody help him out? I really didn't get this part actually during the discussion there. It's more like a policy or management part, kind of.
Technology in the form of energy from waste, we haven't had the time to talk about.
Oh, okay. Anyway, if you're interested in this kind of work, energy from waste and government incentives, impact on the economy or policy making, Professor Animesh Datta from University of Guelph will lead this discussion. I can follow him. That's all we did for the second group. With that, you or Steve?
Just to add a comment right away, there's obviously some overlap. So there's no need to have two separate groups discussing the same topic.
Let him to merge.
Okay,
Make some suggestions, discuss in the same room.
yeah.
Well, we really had no volunteers for the champions, did we? But what we set up was a bit of more of a process, a research process. We set up more of a research process and identified three major theme areas arising from the discussions earlier today. And we felt, in a way, that, and looking at these other ideas, I think it actually corresponds quite nicely, that as you take some of these thoughts that are more specific, these elements of assessment and a resource recovery strategy that need to be fit into each of them. So we spent a lot of time talking about data, that this in so many ways underpins the direction of future work. What we have, what you have, how much there is, what value is, what as a virgin material is, what its value as a waste material is, what it costs to get out. There's historical information, there's international comparisons, there's certain case studies that would be possible. And a lot of this data exists, but it needs to be compiled. Yes, there's some debate as to how much really is available in ICI and how much we can get. Then, based on the data, you can start to do more of the life cycle assessment or the full costing or the total costing, which brings in the economic, the social, the environmental, with an objective towards minimizing impact around a strategy for integrated waste management. Those assessments in a different scale or national scale, but they then interact with the type of and the essence of that discussion was you're trying to optimize value, and that value could be material value or energy value or both. Or it could be fiber value, or it could be metallic value. So the last 5 minutes, however, we thought that to make this operationalizable to the next step, what you do is look at the commodity streams that you would apply this to. So you could think of steel as a commodity stream, or phosphorus as a commodity stream, or fiber, or energy, or rare earth elements as a commodity stream. We need to know where it is, how much is there, how it's changing over time, historically, what the hell do Europeans do with it. Once that, well, that's a point of comparison.
It's the European L reference.
And then you're working out, well, what is the value available to us based on a certain strategy, and then coming back from that strategy, how are we managing it? So the thought was, we talked about a couple. We talked about phosphorus or who was it? Is it? Oh, yeah, there you are.
Yeah, nutrients.
Nutrients. Nutrients is a value in nutrients. So, I've got phosphorus here, call it nutrients. And maybe it's specifically phosphorus, or maybe it's a group of nutrients. We don't know yet. And if you group those together, maybe there's a strategy or an analysis that can be done on phosphorus levels. So, I'm going to put Grant's name there. Because, you were keen on that, right? But we need the data to know where it is first. And I suggested that on the metals, you could take, say, the rare earth elements as a group. And again, maybe there's a strategy over here that can then be characterized. Well, where are those rare earths? Is it automotive fluff that we're looking at? Or is it automotive fluff and televisions and electronics? And do those group together? Do we have to group together based on the data? We can do then the analysis and work out a recovery strategy or a valuation strategy. And in some cases, maybe fiber is recovered as fiber, but maybe sometimes it's recovered as energy. So that goes into what is the optimal value. So we identified a couple of these project areas that need to be fleshed out in the next round. But I think they correspond in a way to half of this list that you've got on the board.
Is there one that I should add that would be unique, or are we okay with?
Well, I thought I saw nutrient recovery already,
Yeah.
which I just put Grant's name in. And I thought I also saw metals recovery, which I think should be split. Because I think, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think recovery of nutrients and recovery of metals would probably be done differently. But we also had an interest in fiber recovery or Lyle's nodding.
No, I'm just. We've got kind of
That's what I said.
Cans versus minerals. We've got kind of a.
I'll pass this over to you now. So that was what we did.
Thank you. We've got kind of a catch-all category that we call material recovery. And I wonder if we put everyone in the same room that's in these various categories of recovery and let them fight it out and see what develops in that. Perhaps it makes sense to do it all in one, or maybe it makes sense to break it into a couple of subgroups. Does that sound reasonable? Let's put you material, metals, nutrients people in the next room, the coffee break room, if you like. So 1301. In terms of the collection network and the plastics upgrading recovery, chemicals recovery, is there any synergy between those two areas, do you think? Are they completely separate or? Separate? Refineries, yeah. Okay. Let me get a show of hands perhaps. Within these two categories, the collection network stuff, how many people might be interested in sitting in on that discussion? And the plastics, biorefinery stuff? Couple? Okay. Maybe we'll put you guys in the small room. More comfortable and intimate there. The collection network will keep you in this room. You can go off and do one part of it. In terms of the Center Institute data collection idea, how many people are interested in following up on that? Okay. I think probably we'll use either part of this room maybe. In economic policy pricing, EFW stuff, does it kind of fit into the center analysis? So it would make maybe some sense to either group together or at least be in the same room. Okay. Have I missed anything or? Yeah.
What if someone is interested in two sessions in different?
Yeah, if you're interested in several things, feel free to wander back and ultimately, at the end of today or after today, we'll produce a summary report. And so if you can't sit in on one session, you at least will have an opportunity to read about what's planned in one of the other sections. And we'll have a feedback mechanism such that you can identify what potential projects you're interested in if you want to be added to an email mailing list, and we'll keep up some communication that way. Okay. So, any other comments, questions? If not, I'd like to take a moment to ask for a few words from one of our sponsors, and to do that, I'd like to ask John Foden to introduce her.
Today would not have been possible without the Canadian Plastics Industry Association, and in particular their very forward-looking and strategic analysis and appreciation of the waste market. So, representing the CPIA today, Krista Friesen is the Vice President of Sustainability. She started in mid-May, so some of this is new, but she's got lots of experience, so not all of it, that's for sure. She currently leads the CPIA's efforts in post-use resource recovery, which include the development and execution of partnership programs to promote solutions that increase the recovery of plastics at their end of life and reduce marine litter. She has more than 15 years experience at Summerhill, which is a Toronto-based consulting firm, and Pollution Pro, which is an environmental NGO. She has research and experience in research and developing programs to manage end-of-life materials. And for those of you who are consultants in the marketplace, it's always exciting to have a new client. Well, plastics isn't really a new client, but it's a new person. So it's exciting for me to start to build a relationship with Krista, and in particular to start with this event, which I think is very exciting and holds great promise. So, Krista Friesen.
Thanks very much. And I'll just take a few minutes. So first, thanks very much to John for the intro, and thanks to Bill and the organizing crew for giving me a few minutes to give you a sense of why CPIA is here. So while I'm relatively new to CPIA, as John said, I'm 6 weeks on the job tomorrow. The association has been actively involved in resource recovery and management issues for many years. As John said, my primary role is to develop and execute partnership programs that promote solutions to manage waste plastics. And this includes efforts to increase recycling activities, as well as energy recovery from plastics. So that's why I'm really excited about this workshop and the opportunities that are being presented here today. I see this as an opportunity to increase interaction and collaboration among academia, government, and industry representatives. And it's an important first step in the evolution of the waste management industry of Canada. I feel that we're creating a neutral forum that facilitates the free exchange of ideas around a range of waste issues. Finally, I think going forward, it's up to all of us to build on the discussion we're having here today, to refine our respective roles, and to work together where possible to build a progressive, forward-looking industry that operates with the most current and accurate information and best practices. So thanks again for your time. I'm excited to be a part of today, and really looking forward to hearing the outcomes and seeing what the next steps are from this great opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Krista. So at this point, we're running pretty close to time. We're
got scheduled a coffee break, so you can relax for a few minutes, grab some coffee, and then reconvene in whichever of these rooms best matches your interests. And the project champion or leaders that we've identified will let them take over at that point and try to come up with some more definitive project plans, and at the end of that session, hopefully be able to tell us, to wrap up today, what's going to happen next. So thank you, and enjoy your coffee.